You're staring at the chat, at the last message you sent, the one that still says delivered. You already know. You're probably going to lose sleep tonight. And you're still telling yourself, just wait. Maybe this time is different. Maybe they really do care. Maybe you just need one more message, one more explanation, one more sign. Many people think that feeling is love. But often, what you're attached to isn't the person. It's the temporary pain relief they give you. When they're warm, you feel wanted. When they go cold, you feel yourself shrinking. And that's why this hurts so much. Because often, you're not just afraid of losing them. You're afraid of losing the version of you that still felt lovable when they were close. And you mistake that relief for love. You think you're chasing happiness, but really, you just don't want to face the pain. So the real question is not just, why do I always fall for the wrong person? The deeper question is, why does my pain keep choosing for me? Why do some relationships feel so intense, so meaningful, so impossible to walk away from? Not always because you've found your soulmate. Sometimes it's because that person touches a place in you that has been lonely, afraid, empty, or unseen for a very long time. And for a moment, that pain gets covered up. You feel less alone, less anxious, less doubtful. You feel seen, wanted, chosen. But what keeps you hooked is often not how good they are. It's how much they help you not feel what hurts inside you. And this is where it gets more painful. Because when someone starts pulling away, you usually tell yourself, you just want clarity. You just want an answer. You just want to know where you stand. But more often than not, that's not the whole truth. What you really can't tolerate is not the uncertainty itself. It's the way your sense of worth starts dropping. The moment they become distant. When they stop texting the way they used to. When their warmth fades. When their attention becomes inconsistent. It's not just the relationship that feels unstable. You start to feel unstable. You start wondering if you're still special, still attractive, still enough, still unforgettable. That's why you keep checking, analyzing, replaying, chasing, trying to pull the connection back to where it used to be. You're not just trying to figure out whether they love you. You're trying to protect an illusion, the illusion that you are still loved, still desirable, still irreplaceable. And sometimes that's what you're really holding on to, not the person. The illusion that as long as they still want you, you still have value. That's why people can get trapped so deeply in these dynamics. Because when the other person cools off, what you lose is not just their attention. You also lose the temporary structure that was holding up your self-worth. From a Buddhist point of view, this is already more than a dating problem. It's not just about whether you like someone. It's about the way an external person gets recruited to stabilize your sense of self. And when they pull away, that unstable self starts shaking again. But there's another reason. This is so hard to stop. People do not fall in love in a fully conscious state. Much of what decides who you're drawn to doesn't first appear as a clear thought in your mind. It runs like a script in the background. You can't see it directly, but it's there, running all the time. You think you're calmly evaluating someone, but often your reaction has already happened. Your mind just comes in later to explain it. That's why you say things like, "They're different. They really understand me. I can't miss this. I just need a little more certainty." But sometimes those thoughts are not clear judgments. They're defenses. They're explanations written after the background script has already started running. Psychology has different ways of describing this. You could talk about familiarity, projection, rationalization. You may not actually be in love with this person as they are. You may be drawn to a familiar emotional pattern, or to the feeling that this time, finally, you might be chosen. And from a neuroscience perspective, loosely speaking, the brain is not always chasing what is best for you in the long run. It is very easily captured by immediate relief and by intermittent reward. That's why someone who is hot and cold can feel more addictive than someone steady. Not because that's love, but because unpredictability hooks attention. You keep waiting, predicting, checking, investing more, and all the while, you think you're pursuing love, but often you're being pulled around by reward, fear, and hope. Now, if I borrow a framework from the consciousness-only school, this becomes even clearer. This framework breaks inner experience into 8 layers of consciousness. You don't need to remember all the technical details. Just hold on to 3 roles. The 6th consciousness, or mental consciousness, is like the narrator. It analyzes, judges, compares, explains, makes sense of things. So all those thoughts like, why do I like them so much? Why can't I let go? Why do they feel different? That all lives mostly at the level of the 6th consciousness. The 8th consciousness, or storehouse consciousness, is more like a deep storehouse, a reservoir of old impressions, old wounds, old tendencies, old habits. Things sink into it, and from there, they keep shaping how you respond. But the 7th consciousness, known as the afflicted mind, is where this gets especially painful. In this framework, the 7th consciousness habitually mistakes part of that deeper stream for a real, solid me. Put simply, it keeps building and protecting a sense of I. I need to be safe. I need to be whole. I need to be loved. I need to be confirmed. That self-sense feels so intimate that we assume it must be real, solid, and central. But this tradition says that too is a kind of construction, and the 7th consciousness keeps clinging to it. This is what Buddhist language would call self-grasping. So when someone appears who touches your deepest fear of being abandoned, unwanted, or not enough, the 7th consciousness doesn't wait politely for the 6th consciousness to think things through. It grabs the hope. It grabs the relief. It grabs the possibility that maybe this time I'll finally feel complete. And then the 6th consciousness shows up and starts writing the story. See? They're special. See? This time is different. See? I'm not attached. I'm just sincere. That's why so much suffering and love doesn't begin with a clear thought. It begins with a deeper grasping, and the mind comes in later to make that grasping look reasonable. This is also why it is so hard to stop, so hard to become still, so hard to see clearly. You're not just fighting with one thought. You're dealing with a deeper, older, more automatic pattern. And that's why awareness feels hard at the beginning. At first, you're trying to use the sixth consciousness, the part that can observe and discriminate, to notice something that has already been activated at a much deeper level. Of course, that feels difficult. Of course, one insight doesn't suddenly free you. Of course, one video doesn't dissolve attachment. This is why real peace, real clarity, and real freedom from suffering require practice, not one realization. Practice. So the real work is not just asking, are they toxic? Are they right for me? Do they love me or not? Those questions matter, but if you stop there, you're still only looking outward. The deeper work is to identify three things. First, what are you actually afraid of? Is it really this person you're afraid of losing? Or is it the chance to finally feel chosen? Second, what are you trying to prove? Are you afraid that if you're not proactive enough, you'll become forgettable? Are you pursuing love or desperately maintaining a perfect image so you won't be rejected? Third, is this person love or pain relief? What you can't let go of? Is it the relationship itself? Or is it the way they temporarily stop you from feeling the pain? This goes deeper than simple loss aversion, because what drives you here is not just a fear of losing something outside. It is the fear you have never really faced inside. And the less you face it, the deeper it roots itself. So the real practice is not to become better at analyzing other people. It's to start seeing yourself, to notice what situations trigger the old pattern, to notice what happens in your body, in your thoughts, in your impulses, the moment the grasping starts. Sometimes all that happened is the reply late, and yet inside, you are already falling. You don't just feel disappointed. You feel less attractive, less special, less worthy. That's why so much trying to get an answer is actually a hidden attempt to rescue a self that feels like it is collapsing in value. And this is the line I really want to emphasize. It is not about never taking action. It is about no longer letting automatic reaction rule your action. You can still like someone. You can still reach out. You can still move toward a relationship. You can still carefully explore whether something real is there. The difference is not whether you act. The difference is what is moving you. Clarity or old pain? Awareness or compulsion? Stopping the reaction does not mean shutting down. It does not mean going numb. It does not mean becoming someone who feels nothing. It means that when the familiar grasping rises again, you can finally see it without instantly becoming it. And one day, if you keep practicing, you may actually catch it in real time and think, there you are again, trying to run the whole show. That is the moment you begin to have a choice. You can still continue. You can also pause. You can move closer. Or you can step back and observe more carefully. But now, the background script is not the only thing deciding for you. So how do you train this? Meditation helps. Other forms of awareness practice help too. But the deeper work is not only what happens in a quiet room. The deeper work is whether, in the middle of real triggers, real heartbreak, real fear, real longing, you can stand your ground right there, inside the storm. This is how the heart is trained. Not by running, not by rushing to win, not by rushing to prove something, but by meeting those exact moments when you most want to chase, grip, explain, or beg, and using them to trace the knot back to its root. Sometimes the root is scarcity, sometimes shame, sometimes fear of abandonment, sometimes a buried belief like, if no one chooses me, maybe I was never worthy of love. Buddhist practice is not meant to turn you into someone who feels nothing. It is not about shutting yourself off. It is about learning to see suffering as it arises, to see craving as it arises, to see the movement that wants to grab the outside world so the self can feel steady again. And that matters, because any happiness held together by grasping already contains anxiety inside it. The moment the mind clings, pleasure starts leaning toward pain. So your job is not to instantly destroy these patterns. It is to see them again and again, to stop obeying them immediately, again and again, to choose differently, again and again. And over time, you start being able to tell the difference between love and projection, between closeness and pain relief, between moving towards someone clearly and grabbing at them blindly. And when that changes, it's not just your relationships that change. Your center changes. Because before, old pain was choosing for you. Now, you begin to choose. So if you really want to meet the right person one day, don't start by asking, who can save you? Start by seeing the part of you that panics when it is hurt, grabs when it feels insecure, and starts doubting its worth. The moment it feels ignored. As long as that background script is still running, the next person you fall for may not be the person at all. It may just be the familiar pain relief they give you. But once you begin to see it, the story doesn't have to repeat itself. Because from that moment on, the one choosing for you doesn't have to be old pain anymore. It can be you.